Mega church. You know what a mega church is? You've seen them on television, depending on what the thing. I saw one the other night. It looks like the Soldiers Field in Chicago, filled with Christians. And you had a guy way down there on the stage, little itty bitty guy, in this vast room. And you have these great big monitors hanging on the wall. And they, oh yeah, big monitors. The guy was out there preaching, why Jesus said, I don't know if Jesus said anything. Why in the Bible it's heathen. These are the Trumpers. Want to know where Trump get his things? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's see. Who? Oh, yes. I went to, there's mega churches in Chicago. And one of my friends who was one of them. No, a Christian. But he was, he wasn't married and didn't have any children. As that thing, and we went there, and I went there with a lot of my Jewish friends, and now the pastor knew where his friends came from the school, from organizations, and he knew that we were, you have the little on top when you walk into a religious center. And after the wake was over with, the pastor got there and he laid into the Jews. And half the place walked out. Where are you going? We're Jewish. But yeah, it was a mega church. Another place I went to, it was in South Barrington. I worked in the food pantry in the warehouse. And they would fill up the place with 25,000 people. They had a multi-churches. They first had the smaller church, and then they built the bigger church. They built the bigger church, which was paid for before the first shovel hit the ground. It was prepaid for it. They paid Pepper Construction to build it. And a beautiful thing. I mean, you're talking a food bank where I could take a forklift, and which I did, and raise it up 4 tiers. That type of food bank, and thousands of feet of storage of food, where the FDA would deliver a 40-foot trailer each week, besides the greater Chicago delivering 40-foot trailers of food. And you would go through that in 1 week, because greater Chicago delivered 3 40-foot trailers 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And during Saturdays, they would get local markets would donate food. Well, all the stuff that basically going out of Best Buy by that time. But it was I was that thing. And did I attend the inside there? Well, yeah, they had to work what they did. But they all basically was all why Jesus is coming back. Jesus is coming back, and understand when they're out there, they have satellite churches, so they would have something like 7 satellite churches around the Chicagoland area, and it's mega church, and because their parking lot could handle 20,000 cars. Yes, 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 yes. Big enough spaces for 20,000 cars there. Not all people attended that thing on a Sunday or a Saturday night. But if they had something going on Saturday night, like an event, a band coming in, one of those things, lyric opera coming in, Chicago Sympathy coming in there, they could literally empty all the restaurants in South Barrington on a Saturday night. They would simply close. There's no customers. You know, because one, they serve food there, and two, the movie theater in South Barrington, basically nobody showed up on Saturday night if there was something at Willow Creek was going on. And it's a mega church, and it was built that way. And as Bill Hybels, I think it was Bill Hybels, was retiring, all at once out of the woodwork came these women. Why, I was sexually abused by Bill. He hugged me. Bill Hybels doesn't hug people for that reason. He insulted me 20 years ago. 20 years ago? Well, you get insulted there by not being invited to a closed party, and Bill would have closed party for people who donated money. You know, there were some pretty big donations going on. Considering that it was easily for them to pull in $52 million, $1 million a week or more in TIF. Is it TIF? TIF? Yes. Why, yes. So they got things. And South, I'll say since I worked in the food store, I never got past the main lobby. Never got past that thing. I didn't have time to go into the main section of that thing. I was always in the food pantry, doing the work, bringing in food, stacking it, putting it on shelves, things like that. And I would put in my 8 hours a day. Yes, there are the other people. It's all volunteers, and other people would put in their 8 hours. There was 3 shifts. Yeah, there was the morning shift, the afternoon shift, and the night shift. So you basically literally got rid of 3 or 4 40-foot trailers of food a week. I remember on Saturday, donations coming in on Saturday. I literally filled up the freezer, and you're talking a freezer which you can bring a forklift into, and a regular refrigerator with food donations. And by Monday morning, they would have, on Sunday, they would have the food store open, and they would go through quite a bit. And by the time the first shift was over with, they got rid of a lot of food. And you could have 3 shifts. You could have a couple hundred families going through the place each day. Yeah. Sunday, they cut back to only afternoon because they couldn't get the volunteers. Volunteers got burned out in that place fast. And as I said, it was all volunteers. I remember one of the women, we were at an off location before we moved into the main building, that she was looking for 3,000 volunteers a month to volunteer. She couldn't get them because it's one thing to be a volunteer. It's the other ones who are more dedicated to volunteers like me to be at the mega church. The volunteers, I heard one woman on a Sunday, on on a Saturday complained she was putting toilet paper into bags. 3 rolls in the bag. And she says, "This is work." And I told her, "Would you like to really know what work is? Let's unload. You can come. Hey, you want to find out what work is? Yeah. I'm unloading a couple of trailers back there. You want to come back there and help me unload?" Many times volunteers would come on their, like on a Saturday, and find out what they're doing is, it's work. It's work. And they wouldn't come back the following week, Saturday. Some would come in there on a Monday and volunteer, and, "Whoa, can you come back in the afternoon?" "No." "How about at night?" "No." So they cut back from 3 serves a day to 2 serves a day. They just cut back to Monday in the morning time. And then they cut back on the time. They did. They eliminated Friday as serving because of the volunteers. They couldn't get the volunteers to show up. They went from 3 times a day to twice a day. They basically were burning out volunteers. Did I eventually get burnt out? The pandemic, basically that thing. I wouldn't walk into the place during the pandemic for the simple reason I will be around people that may be carrying the virus with me or with them. And I didn't want to I'm that old. A lot of people had to prove that they got the vaccine shot. It was really hard to see everybody running around with masks and being tested with a little infrared tester to find out if their body temperature is above a certain degrees. If it's at 100 degrees, they were told to go home. And did I ever go back? I went back for food, and that's about it. But I wouldn't go back there. Even if I was asked to go, "Oh, you want to volunteer?" I says, "It's too dangerous. At my age, it's too dangerous." All you need is that one person, that one Christian who decides that they're not going to get vaccinated, and one child coming in. No. And they never really recovered from that thing. And many times they were a growing church, and what big events in their life happened? One of the big events in their life happened to be in 2001, 9/11, when that came down. A lot of people who were going to the church and were donating big bucks stopped. Why? Because they were tied into the World Trade Center. 2008 crash. Many businesses crashed too. They lost donations. Yeah. They lost donations depending on who was in office. When Trump got into office, they lost that thing. Of course, during the pandemic, nobody showed up for church. Yes, they had to basically reduce staff, and I do mean kill staff. Now, most of the church offices are empty. Whole sections are basically locked down. Doors are locked. It didn't used to be that way, but doors are locked. Do they still trying to build up that thing? Couple satellite churches went out of business. Yes, but you realize that every church in that South Barrington suffers because of Willow Creek. They take the members away. There are a couple of other mega churches there who have gone through problems of one thing, too much money in the coffins. At one time, a mega church there found out that the pastor had a private airplane that they did not know about, that the church paid for. 3 homes that the church did not know about, because somebody did the books. What do you mean? Somebody actually did the books, finding out money was being spent and nobody knew where and how it was being spent. And it turned out the guy had a private airplane. He had a boat or 2. One of them was moored in Lake Michigan in Chicago, being moored in Chicago. It wasn't a small one either, owned by the church. Yeah. You have to be very cautious when you're dealing with mega churches. There's a lot of money flowing in, and there are people within the church who becomes sticky-fingered. That's one of the bad thing about a mega church. You don't know where the funds are going to. It's as the IRS said, when a church brings in $50 or $100 million a year, and they can't explain where the money's going to. Well, it's going to take care of people in Africa or Caribbean or South America. Right. See, 50 cents to them and 50 cents to me. Yeah, well, that's the problem. It's one of the problems about mega churches. They have too much money, and they don't pay U.S. taxes.